Welcome back to the Phil Rosenberg Show. I am, of course, Phil Rosenberg, and I'm here with a very special guest. His name is Aaron Blake. Aaron is not just an opera singer, but he's a tenor, which is a very special, he gives him a very special range. For those of you that are not familiar, you've probably heard of the three tenors. You've heard of, is that right? The three tenors, Aaron?
The three tenors, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and one of whom is dead, as a matter of fact.
Yes, one of whom is dead, Luciano Pavarotti. He's deceased.
So now it's like two tenors and some bones.
Two tenors and some bones. One's a baritone now, in fact, as well. That's Placido Domingo.
So it's a tenor, a baritone, and some bones.
Exactly, there you go.
Got it. So really that stuff is dead. Got it. So, okay, Aaron Blake is a native of Palo Verde, California. That means green tree. A 2006 graduate of Juilliard School of Music, and he also has a master's in music with a specialization in operatic performance from the Shepherd School of Music at Rush University. It's a very prestigious place to learn music. He has been, and is now, in fact, a tenor for the Metropolitan Opera since the 2014-15 season, most recently as the High Priest of Amon in Philip Glass's, I'm going to pronounce this correctly, I hope, Akhnaten?
Correct, that's Akhnaten. He was a pharaoh, an Egyptian pharaoh.
And he's done a ton more, and we're going to talk about all the things that, well, not all of them. We're going to talk about some of the things that he's done. So, Aaron, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure, Phil. Thanks for having me.
How are you feeling in the midst of all this hullabaloo, shall we call it?
You know, I feel like I'm actually doing pretty well. I smile a lot still, which is a good thing.
That's a good thing, yeah.
It has definitely been a change of life. You know, when right before this all started, I was singing with the Israeli opera. I was doing the Count Almaviva and the Barber of Seville. And we started rehearsals in mid-January, and the performances started in late February and went into the middle of March.
Yeah.
And we started hearing little bits and pieces about the coronavirus going, oh, it's another one of these SARS type moments and it won't affect us. And then as it started growing, and we actually had a couple of Italians and other people that were living in Italy in our cast there, and they were sending pictures from home of the supermarkets being raided and all the pasta, all the barilla off the shelves and stuff like that. And we were going, wow, this is
funny. So like they did with pasta what we did with toilet paper.
Toilet paper. Exactly.
That's so weird. Can't, like, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, I can't boil toilet paper and I can't do some other stuff with pasta. Right.
It would take a lot of pasta to accomplish that.
That's right, it would. Even lasagna, maybe.
At least there's a lot of fiber in it, right? Or am I wrong?
Oh my gosh. We've gone too far, officially. Oh, this is a really good time, by the way. Let's make a funny face, okay? On the count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
This is funny. I'm on the Phil Rosenberg show.
No, thank you for coming. It's so nice of you.
My pleasure.
Oh, all right. Okay, welcome back.
Out of my systems, Phil.
Yeah, I needed to do that. Thanks for doing that for me.
No worries.
Yeah. Okay, so on about the same amount of seriousness, I guess. I want to. Oh, I guess maybe this is a little more serious. I guess I want to ask you about what is happening in the future of. So we saw, like, everything came to an end. You're saying in Israel, the opera. That's
well.
It.
So yeah, we started hearing these things, and then our performances started happening, and it became more serious. La Scala actually closed while we were in Israel. Which was a huge, you
just went right home
moment in the operatic world. Yeah. And then it evolved into, there were two casts, and the more, wily of the two casts, they ended up incorporating the face mask into their performances.
Oh, how clever.
We finished performing on March 8th. I was home in New York on March 9th, and I ended up choosing to fly to California to be with my parents on the 13th. So it was an abrupt halt, and then by that Monday, the entire country was basically on lockdown.
Woo!
Yeah,
Okay.
it was called, it's like that Jacob's brake moment. If you're a semi driver, you're going down a hill and you're like, whoops, I don't have any brakes. Let's pull that emergency stop. And that's pretty much what happened to all of us. And then,
Yeah.
the whole of my colleagues we started receiving all of these cancellations, this rolling cancellation, which is still happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the same exact experience. Was doing the radio show, was working on a TV pilot, was doing different projects, teaching chess. All of these things are now, they're up in the air. Some of them seem obviously not going to move forward. Others, I was
Furloughed.
involved with other projects.
That's everybody's favorite word at the moment, right? Furloughed. All of our projects are furloughed.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not dead. It's still breathing, but maybe just barely. Right,
exactly.
Some of the stuff. So okay, so there it is. So everything comes to a screeching halt. And what next? What do you think? What does the future hold for you? And then let's talk about the wider opera scene. But first, for you, what do you think? Are you just sort of being a hermit right now and waiting until everything blossoms again, or what's the plan?
Interesting. Well, as I said, I'm in California. I chose to get out of New York. For one of the reasons was because I knew that I didn't have the virus, and I wanted to be in a place where I live in a very large building in New York City.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be in a single family house. Both of my parents are somewhat older, I would say, particularly my father, and he's not well. He has Alzheimer's, and so I knew that I could be really helpful here in helping to kind of, take some of that burden off of my mom's shoulders, who works and takes care of him as well. So I've been helping out with that. And somewhat being a hermit, I wouldn't necessarily call it that, but I have been doing a lot of introspection and also a lot of practice. It's given me a ton of free time, obviously, to work on my voice and to think about what I might want to do going forward as far as certain types of engagements I might want to seek out. And
hold on. Wait, what kind of things are they? You're being kind of mysterious.
Different repertoire, and also I do sing cabaret as well, which is kind of.
I heard about that actually. We were going to get there. I'm a big fan of cabaret. And it's not even the naked boobies that do it for me. How about that? I was going to say that I love the vaudevillian sense that it brings. I'm a big fan of vaudeville, and I think modern day movies really miss being able to draw from that pool of talent that was available when vaudeville was around. I think that's a really sad thing,
I totally agree. There was a certain art in the theater that was lost when vaudeville kind of went out, and everything kind of became a little bit more mainstream.
Yeah.
But I love cabaret. I developed a new virtual musical experience called Toasty Tuesdays.
Oh, nice. What day of the week can we catch that on?
Are you imitating my dad right now? I'm just kidding. It's
I have
Tuesday.
A little Alzheimer's, right?
Every Tuesday. No, the reason why I say that is because I had a cute conversation with him the other day, and we were putting out some American flags in his yard for 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we're putting these out for the 4th of July. He goes, when is Valentine's Day anyway? And I said, well, that's February the 14th. And he goes, huh. And I said, but these are for the 4th of July. And he goes, well, when's that? There's some really endearing moments,
Yeah.
But it's been an interesting time seeing and experiencing what it's like to do that, to take care of somebody ailing with that up close. And it's been really, really life-changing. So I've been doing that, and I've also been maintaining my private studio of voice as well, which has been a passion of mine for, about 7 years now. And I have a studio of between 10 and 12 students at any given time. And that's been something that I've done and taken with me on the road, because I teach mainly through Zoom or FaceTime. and I've been able to travel with that business. And then now it's become something that I'm so grateful that I have, because it's been something that's helping to support me during this time when we're all out of the theaters.
All right. So are you imagining what your, oh, so restaurants are not open yet by you, or are they?
Restaurants are open, actually. I saw some people eating out on a patio just the other day.
Where have you been out to? Have you had your first restaurant meal, like at a restaurant yet?
I have not had my first restaurant meal at a restaurant yet.
Where will it be when you go? Where will it be?
That's a good question. I feel like, not that I don't want to, I'm not a big restaurant person when I'm out in California anyway, because we like to cook a lot as a family. And so I feel as though what I'm going to end up doing is probably waiting on that until it's really worthwhile, or maybe when I'm traveling somewhere, I'll go out and eat when I'm on an engagement again. But for the moment, I don't feel compelled to go back to the restaurants.
Okay, all right. So the basics. Who's your favorite living opera singer besides yourself?
Wow, besides myself. That's a really good question. My favorite living opera singer besides myself, I'd probably have to go with Renee Fleming.
And who's your favorite dead opera singer?
I'm gonna go with Pavarotti.
Or
Maria Callas. It may be a tie between Pavarotti and Callas.
Okay. I would like. What is your favorite opera to sing, or do you have one that's really the one that you just know? It's the one, or do you have many?
My answer to that question is my favorite opera to sing is whichever opera I'm performing.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Because I don't know if that's a pat answer that a lot of people give, but to me it really makes the most sense, because when I'm performing a role, I've invested my entire self in that role, and I really pride myself in taking it to that level, so that it's not like I'm hating performing this role, or gosh, this role is so silly. I hear some colleagues talk about that. Oh, I'd never want to perform that role, or oh, this role is so annoying. But I feel like when you look at the way that I approach it as an artist, is I always say, you know, I do my best to find the real qualities about the character, and then go deeper and figure out how I can flesh those out to make him interesting, you know. And that's the way I do it. So it's whatever opera, I'm fully invested in whatever opera I am performing. However, I've had the opportunity to sing some amazing roles.
So which is your favorite that you've done? Yep, besides the one that you're in, right, or whichever your latest one is.
Right.
Thinking back.
The at-home opera.
Oh, so serious question, kind of serious. Thinking back, have you had a favorite role?
One of the most impressive experiences that I've ever had as an artist was to be able to create the role of Timothy Laughlin in Fellow Travelers, which is an opera by Gregory Spears with a libretto by Greg Pierce that was directed by Kevin Newberry. And that was premiered in Cincinnati. It was a world premiere, the first world premiere that I was a part of back in 2016. And the reason why that opera was important to me and why it was such an amazing experience is because it had an incredible support system behind it, and it was about a very special topic, which was similar, I suppose, to what we're dealing with now with this new movement that has been once again spurred on by the death of George Floyd, which was in the 1950s, in the McCarthy era in Washington, D.C., the persecution of different people, gay people, lesbian people, and communists, and all of these people that were earmarked as being people that could jeopardize the
fabric of society, the status quo,
national security of our government.
It's really the status quo. That I know the time you're talking about, the whole McCarthy era, was, I think, about the people in power recognized that the enemy of capitalism, the natural enemy of capitalism, even by the claims of communism, the communism itself says that it comes after capitalism fails. And so it is the natural enemy of it. And I think at that time, there was anyone who was against the status quo, who wanted things to change, be different, ended up being, do I want to use the phrase enemy of the state? I mean, you're getting blacklisted.
I mean, in a way, it really was. And I mean, in particular, my character, Tim, he was a young Fordham graduate who goes to DC, meets this guy on a park bench, has his first, homosexual relationship with him, and ends up having his entire life destroyed by the fact that this man has to hide in order to keep his job, and ends up giving his name to the hearings and having him completely, all the things that he worked for as, a speechwriter for a senator, and all the other initiatives that he worked at as building a career and a life in Washington, D.C., as this hopeful young man, were completely taken away from him in an instant with this decision that this guy made to save his own hide and give up my life, basically, So it is, what you're saying is very true. And so it was a profound emotional experience. The opera was, by Opera News and a couple of other, well, it was widely reviewed, but they said that it was like the La Boheme of the 21st century. It's a really profound love story. The music is gorgeous, and it was definitely a life-changing moment on stage for me, where I grew tremendously as an artist, and it has informed how I perform, and have performed every role ever since then.
How has it informed your future performances?
Well, I feel like until that moment, I was really still searching for what it meant to be real on stage, and what it meant to feel comfortable being a real character on stage. And that opera, because of how important singing a full-scale opera in English with really, really modern day idioms, informs the way that you use your voice and the way that you express the text. And before that moment, I'd never experienced anything like that. So the amount of thought that I was, for lack of a better word, forced to use to figure out how to best support that wonderful libretto and that beautiful music, informed the way that I would approach La Traviata, would inform the way that I approach Barber of Seville. You know what I mean? It allows me to have so much more expressiveness and to go beyond the boundaries that people may feel that music of Mozart and Rossini and Verdi and all of those kinds of styles of opera have on them. They can still be very immediate and real.
So let me ask you a kind of a weird question, because I don't know how many people aspire. By the way, we're coming, unfortunately, towards the end of our time for the interview. So I'm just going to ask a couple of quick questions, and then
Sure.
Just do sort of a shout out for you, how people can reach out to you or see your work and so on. But let me first ask this. So opera as a form has pretty much left mainstream. For sometimes been maybe even 100 years or more since the opera has really been like, the main place you go for your entertainment, right? And also maybe other countries as well. Maybe it was never quite mainstream here. And I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I would say that it was mainstream for a certain crew, but definitely not for the public at large.
But that, like, unlike Italy, for example, where the public at large would have worse seats, but everyone would go to the opera as their entertainment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's,
I mean,
really,
everybody, in a certain sense, Phil, everyone's always gone to the opera here too, but it's not a part of our innate culture. Whereas in Germany, every opera house, every city has an opera house or 2 or 3, and they're sold out every night. And they will continue to be, because they have wonderful government support for the arts, and they're able to keep the ticket prices at a realm that make it manageable for people to afford to go.
that's a big deal. And so let me ask you this question now. So are you thinking about ways that, what can you do during the pandemic? Is it possible? Is it totally irrational to think that it's possible to produce an opera digitally
It's it's
exclusively?
actually it's actually not impossible to think about. In fact, a Zoom opera has already taken place. Um, as I said, I started Tulsi Tuesdays, which is a virtual musical event. It's by no means a full-scale opera. It's just designed to bring people joy. However, the Metropolitan Opera and the Guggenheim Museum and the Santa Fe Opera are producing I suppose it's an operatic event because there's a wonderful operatic singer involved named Anthony Roth Costanzo. And they're going to be producing a digital opera or a digital music event that happens to look at opera singers' times in quarantine, you know? And so things are happening. What I want to say about that is I think that continuing to reach the public through digital platforms is really wonderful, through virtual platforms is really wonderful. However, our art form is really meant to be performed in the theater, whether that ends up being the death of opera or not, remains to be seen.
Let's just go with not.
Right? However, it really is important for the voice to be heard live and for the experience to be had in the theater, because that's really where the magic happens.
But the pandemic won't last forever. That's certain, I think. So let's.
I would agree. It won't last forever.
I mean, it looks. Gosh, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm certainly not an epidemiologist, a virologist, or any of those specializations, or anything other than a interviewer and a chess player. But what I understand is that maybe if we can get past this winter season, this holiday season, without getting smashed up too badly by COVID-19, that we may have a vaccine before the next cycle of virus comes around. So we get one more cycle, but not a second one after that. And that's when maybe large venues, or, it's already so expensive. This is the nice thing about the digital world, right? I mean, it costs $200-300 to go to the Met, see an opera here in New York, but a ticket can be $5 worldwide, right? You can have 1 billion people tuning in, each paying $1, right?
That's true. I mean, I suppose we may go to a digital platform where we see, empty opera houses, but people are tuning in digitally or virtually worldwide, and we have streams. They did it for a Carmen performance in Germany from the I don't know, is it the Berlin Staatsoper or Staatsoper unter den Linden?
How did it go? How was it?
I think that people were overjoyed that they chose to go on with an audience list performance and stream it live for free all over the world. I think it was tremendously successful. Yeah, I think that it all remains to be seen. It's too soon. And, the real truth about however this virus is going to evolve and how it's going to hit us again, I think it also remains to be seen, though. I do feel that once people have, it seems as though the thing that I've heard and feel is important to remember is that once people develop an antibody for the virus, it's really impossible for them to get it again. And when a virus develops a second strain, it's like the flu. Do you know what I mean?
You sure about that? Because I typically, for a flu, antibodies last a certain amount of time, and before which you are immune, but after which you are no longer immune, which is why you can, from season to season, catch an ordinary flu, essentially the same strain. It's possible to do. I think that's the big concern.
Maybe I'm mistaken about that.
Pardon me?
I said maybe I'm mistaken about that.
I'm wondering. I'm not. So I think the science is not in yet. That's the problem. Is we haven't got to the point.
I'm saying. I think that it's too soon to say.
Yeah.
However, I hope that we can return to our regularly scheduled lives as performers sooner than later.
Absolutely, and as part of the group of folks that likes to be entertained by performers, I second that motion. Let's do that. And that, by the way, is a perfect place to end. I think really that's the message, right? We're looking at normal again from a slight distance, but we're going to get there.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. So remain positive.
And all of us artists, we're really coming together, and we are doing our best to bridge the gap until that happens.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. How can people find more of your stuff, by the way?
So my website is aaronblaketenor.com. My Instagram is Tenor Blake. My Facebook, I'm Aaron Blake. I also have a professional page and a personal page. Feel free to reach out. My Toasty Tuesdays, you can check me out every Tuesday. I'll be doing a new song of Francesco Paolo Tosti's, and those will be available on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram on IGTV. And so you can check me out all of those places, and I'll be happy to engage with you. And if you have any questions about singing or performing or me, never hesitate to send me a message.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Phil. What a pleasure.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Absolutely. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. And I hope after the pandemic is done and you're back, really out there doing your thing, we can catch up again and, see how the worm has turned. Yeah?
Absolutely. That sounds amazing.
All right. All righty. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again, Aaron.
Thank you so much. All right. Ciao. Bye-bye.